All right, that is not our typical intro, but that's welcome to our first episode of the Political Spectrum. We just wanted you to know that the views that we express or our guests express are not the views of Black Media or ATR. So tonight, Dante, I think we're here to talk about voter education and a number of other things to help people become more knowledgeable about the voting process. So welcome aboard.
Thank you for asking me to be a part of this journey with you, Robert. And you are correct. So we're really going to focus on the important issues of 2024. We have a lot of issues we have to talk about in the Black community and overall uh, in our country. This is a very important election that's coming up. There are a lot of people that's divided on both sides. There's also a lot of misinformation out there, and a lot of people that's sorry about that. I live in downtown Atlanta, so you have to excuse the sirens.
That might be Donald Trump coming through. I'm just kidding. I'm just we'll talk about that too. So, but so as typical with most of our ATR or our Black Media podcasts, we have a structure. So our first 10 minutes will be about current national and state political issues. And I think one of the most glaring things right in front of us right now is the presidential primary.
Yeah, it definitely it is. What started out as a lot of people on the Republican side trying to be the nominee or trying to take out the big shark, Donald Trump. None of them have succeeded, and I don't think any of them will succeed. I think Nikki Haley is going to be the one that comes close, but ultimately she's not going to be able to make the finish line. I think Donald Trump is going to be the nominee. And the way how things are looking now, I do think Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States.
Well, now with him being removed from the ballot in certain states, I mean, how does that look for the pathway through the primary even to the presidency?
Well, so that the Supreme Court recently just said that they are going to take up the case and to hear the sides uh, for the Colorado, since they were the first ones to, or not the first ones, since they were the ones who actively was able to remove Donald Trump. So they have been ordered to keep Donald Trump's name on the ballot until a decision is made. I think in the long run and short run, it's going to hurt the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is the ones who are always saying they are trying to protect voting rights, but here you have them trying to remove somebody from the ballot, not convicted or charged of an insurrection. And if you look, no one has been charged, even people who were arrested for January 6th, none of them have been charged with being insurrectionists. Some of them have been charged with trespassing, stopping an official congressional proceeding, and I believe another one was attacking police officer, and the highest crime was seditious conspiracy. So no one has been charged with an insurrection, but for some strange reason, we want to charge Donald Trump with being insurrectionist. I think if you want to beat Donald Trump, the best way to do it is at the ballot box. But to go back to what I was saying earlier about the Democratic Party, they are advocates of saying they're trying to protect voting rights, but here they are trying to take people's vote to for Donald Trump. They're trying to take that away. Regardless if you think Donald Trump should be on the ballot, at this moment, if you are not a Republican, it's really none of your business because it's the Republican Party deciding on who their nominees should be. So the Republicans should decide if they want Donald Trump, Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, or whoever. And if Donald Trump was to make action, and then it's everybody's chance to decide if they want Donald Trump to be president or not. But just to throw him off the ballot because we want to call him an insurrection, even though he hasn't been charged with being an insurrectionist or convicted, it seems kind of shady. And I think a lot of what's going on here, and again, is going to come back and bite the Democratic Party in the ass. Excuse my language. I mean, we already know Joe Biden is not the, he's not the great white hope would be. Kamala Harris is honestly forgotten about. And the best thing that they can do is sit and talk about Donald Trump all day long on CNN. I mean, that's all they can do right now. That's the best thing that they have going for themselves is to continue to talk about Donald Trump.
I'll agree with the aspect of the more energy that's placed into trying to demonize Trump, the better off he is. It's almost like he's handling this like one of his reality TV shows. And it's amazing how people, I think what and you and I talked about this, what people really rally behind is the fact that he pushes back against the establishment in a way that says you can infringe upon certain amendments, certain rights, and people rally behind that.
Hmm. And I mean, the
So
Democratic Party and the media, they're they're doing it out in the open at this point. You know, oh, we hate
mhm.
Trump so bad, so we're going to talk about him every night on TV. We're going to call him a racist. We're going to call him a sexist. We're going to call him an insurrectionist. We're going to call him ultra MAGA. We have to say all these adjectives towards Donald Trump just to get people to hate Donald Trump. Well, again, if you really want to beat this man, beat him at the ballot box. That's the best way to beat him. But unfortunately, you can't do that because under Trump 4 years of presidency, people were better off in the economy than they can say they are under Joe Biden. And
well,
polls
I'm not,
and polls are showing that.
I mean, I will say the stimulus piece helped him out, and I mean that was a gimme. But you know, he did his own damage as far as the deficit. I mean, he helped create more of a deficit. Now, I do want to go back to one thing.
I can agree
I
with you
don't.
on that.
Well,
That was
before we get this 10 minutes, though, let me talk about this piece really quick. When it comes to Trump versus Biden, I think that's going to be a much closer race. But I really like Nikki Haley. I think if Nikki Haley becomes the nominee, the Republican Party would do much better off as far as beating Biden. But if I had to pick, between two, it would be Nikki Haley.
so. I mean, Nikki Haley and Donald Trump are my top two. When this primary first started out, it was Tim Scott, then Donald Trump. Donald Trump has always been, at least for me, in
Yeah,
my top three. Um,
yeah.
I did like Tim Scott. I really liked Tim Scott. Unfortunately, when it came to the debates, he kind of let me down,
Well, what
and I was
about the
not happy
whole
with his.
his whole announcement about slavery? And I was like, what in the world? Where did you get that from?
Who,
He
Nikki
talked
Haley
about
or
slavery.
Donald Trump recently?
You said what now?
Who
Tim Scott
who did you
whole
say you mentioned
ideology
about?
about slavery.
Wait, say that again.
His whole when he did his announcement, right? Tim Scott. He talked about slavery in
Oh,
a way that was very different than what I learned. So I was kind of taken aback, like, what did you learn it from?
I I think the best thing that Republicans need to do, I mean, I'm not no political advisor, but I think the Republican Party needs to focus on the economy, small businesses, and issues that really matter to people, and not focus on anything in the past, and not really focus on January 6th or anything that's not present. We need to focus on the future, and that's the best way to really beat Joe Biden and Kamala Harris if you don't want them to be president or vice president.
Well, yeah, I think that would be an absolutely awesome strategy, because I think people are tired of the January 6th piece. I think people are tired of you know hearing the rhetoric around Donald Trump. People really care about their bottom line budget every month, and so I think you're onto something right there. So we'll see what happens. So what's our main topic? And I think we're going to have a guest join us, and as soon as he pops in, I'll add him. But we're at that mark where we talk about our main topic.
All right. So one thing I wanted to talk about, I noticed how the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are focused on demographic, particularly in the 2024 election, which is kind of ironic, but it's the black male vote. Black males
Hmm.
feel like the Democratic Party is not addressing their needs. Some of the business owners, black males, business owners felt that they did a very good job under Donald Trump. Donald Trump saw his percentage increase from 8% to 12%. And a lot of pollsters believe that that's going to increase in this election cycle.
Right.
There was a poll recently where some blacks feel that the Democratic Party messaging is not focused on black issues, it's more focused on abortion and gay rights.
Well,
And
that's
the
one of my
Republican Party
critics.
is doing a
Oh, go ahead.
very
I'm
good
sorry.
job. What's that?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'll share that in a moment.
And the Republican Party is doing a very good job at their messaging towards Black men and the economy, and trying to get Black or letting Black men who are already conservative anyway know what the Republican Party stands for. One thing I will say about that poll, I don't think that the Black men or Black people in this election are actually voting for the Republican Party. I think they're just voting for Donald Trump and what Donald Trump represents because they felt Donald Trump is someone, I mean, regardless if you hate the man or not, when you see Donald
Mhm.
Trump, you think of business success, and money, and that's what he
Yeah,
always been known as before he became, into politics, and that's what people kind of know him till this very day.
that's true. But going back to what you said, I think one of my criticisms of the Democratic Party has been exactly what you said. It hasn't, Democrats think more. We think more along the lines of multicultural or being inclusive, which is fine. But there's also a piece in a narrative around the Black story or the Black experience that needs to be addressed. Reparations, for example. The other piece is poverty and access. And so those pieces, I think, like you said, need to be kind of addressed instead of looking at it as a holistic view where you clump everybody together.
So when it comes to reparations, I think that is just a selling point that the Democratic Party is trying to do to get Black people to come out to vote. The
Hmm.
Democratic Party had the House and the Senate at one point in time, and they have not yet passed anything for reparations. They have talked about it, but they
Right.
haven't passed anything. They might say, "Oh, the Republicans are trying to stop us," but that didn't stop them from passing an infrastructure bill. That didn't stop them from passing health care. Notice that did not stop them, but for some strange reason, they are moving very slowly when it comes to reparations. So what I want Black people to understand when it comes to reparations, I would not bank on that. I don't think that's going to happen, and that's just my personal opinion.
Well, let me ask you this: do you think it should happen? I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic about it because I think what it will come down to is maybe states' rights. But when you look at other cultures or identities, there's been compensation in some type of way. But
Mhm.
should Black folk, African Americans, receive reparations?
I think my grandmother probably should receive reparations. I mean, me as a 36-year-old man, I don't think I should receive any reparations because, you know, my grandmother, you know, during her time, she couldn't walk on the same walkway as a white
Right.
man. Now I have a lot of freedom that my grandmother have. So looking at it from that perspective, personally, no, I don't think reparations should be given to me directly. I think it should be given to her and people in her generation if it's passed down to me. Yes, I do want Black people, if we are talking about some type of reward or settlement from reparations, I don't think we should focus on cash compensation. We should focus more so on land, trying to
Mm,
obtain as
yeah.
much land as that's where we can really generate wealth for for future generations.
No, I totally agree. I think one of the things that we place a lot of value in is monetary, what's in front of us, materialistic things. But like you said, if we place the investment in land or sustainable investment opportunities, I think that's a better for it builds out the generational wealth that's been missing in our culture as well. So I think you're on something there as well.
So what are your thoughts on reparations? Like, do you
Y'all don't mind the
think,
dog. I'm sorry. Don't mind the dog.
huh?
I think there should be some type of compensation. I don't think it should necessarily be monetary. I can agree with the land piece. I can agree with maybe stocks and bonds or a combination of those. But you pass out money to folks, 9 times out of 10, they're not going to necessarily invest it. Um, but if you give somebody an investment opportunity, I think you put them on a pathway to kind of develop something greater. So I think I agree with you on that. Let's move away from monetary or a check and look at some sustainable investments.
Yeah, I definitely do agree. I'm pretty sure that's going to be a topic that comes up in the 2024 election. And I just hope Black people, when we hear anyone who talk about respirations, let's see exactly what they are going to do, and not it
Mhm.
just be a talking point for the next election cycle, because I think that's
Right.
what it will be, just a talking point just to get Black people to come out to vote. No real pathway of how we can accomplish that, meaning how can we get the House and the Senate to approve it so to go to the presidency. But like you
Mhm.
said, I think it's going to be more of a state's issue. And, depending on what state you are in, we'll see what comes of that.
Mhm. Because I believe California has already started having some type of discussion or debate, or the topic has been raised.
The topic has been raised in California. I know they have discussed that. I'm not surprised California is kind of already leading the charge. I also would not be surprised if every Black person in California got $2,000.
Well, hey, but so
Just to say
I
they
think
did something.
I know, right? So I agree with you there. I just That's an example of what we were talking about. That you don't want to put just money in people's hands. So y'all excuse the dog. He's just going crazy, and that's not what I had planned. But anyway, uh, back to your topic. So what's next on that? That completely threw me
Um,
off.
oh, you said what did the dog threw you off?
Yeah, the whole dog thing. I'm like, what's going on? Like, just for anyway.
So what are your thoughts
Uh,
on do you think where do you think the Black men or the Black male vote would lean towards? Also, don't
as
forget we
far
have
as
William Kennedy running. We also have Cornell West running. So some of them might not go to a Democrat or a Republican. There are other third party candidates that are running as well. I hope no one sits out for the election. I hope everyone get out to go vote for someone. But there are
Mhm.
other candidates that possibly will be on the ballot. But where do you think the Black male vote will go?
Uh, that is an interesting and very broad question. I know, from what I can see and when I'm around, I think it's about, being seen. What I mean by that is not being attacked by the police, being valued in this society. I think that's important. I think that is a priority. Financial stability is a priority because, inflation and the rise of cost of just groceries and basic everyday things have hurt some people and members of their families. And so I think that's another priority. A third one I really think would be uh, kind of at that second or third mark would be this idea of equal opportunity. And so there was a time when Black folks could have saved money, use those savings to buy a home or buy a car, or invest in something like a home or stocks. That doesn't exist anymore. And so I think those three would be kind of the top three priorities.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Whoever can get to the Black community, really asking Black people further, I think will be successful in the long run. Now, there, I think the Democratic Party has always done a phenomenal job of actually going to the Black community and asking Black people for their vote. The
Mhm.
Republican Party I'm a part of, we continue to fail at that. I'm not sure why we fail. I'm someone who've always advocated that we need to get more Republican presence out there and not just the Black Republicans out there. I think we should send every Republican out there to really talk to Black because Black people want the same thing that a lot of Americans want: safe communities. If you want to buy a home, access to do that. If you want to start your own business, access to do that as well. So the issues are the same. So I think the Republican Party really need to take that messaging and go directly to the Black community. A lot of people tried to make fun of Donald Trump when he went to the Black church and asked him, "What the hell you have to lose?" I wouldn't go to the Black church and say that again, but I would think that a lot of people from the federal level and the state level need to do a better job at going directly to the Black community and asking people for their vote.
I agree. I think, and Stacey Abrams made this mistake, and so many make the mistake of when they're on the campaign trail talking to the talented Tim or the elite, and not necessarily wanting to get in the trenches and shake hands and go door to door or some of the things that are strategic in getting elected. And one of those things is going to Black communities and having the conversation and listening and understanding what their wants and desires are. So I agree with you
Yeah.
there. I think honestly, if I'm Donald Trump, you know who I would pick for my VP? Condoleezza
Who's that?
Rice. Condoleezza Rice.
You know, she would not chaos. I
Yeah,
think she would be a little bit more structured. And you
yeah,
know, Donald Trump is kind of a smash mouth type of president and a smash mouth type of person. Condoleezza Rice is more of an old school
yeah,
politician.
yeah,
She's savvy with her words. She knows how to conduct herself. If she's going to attack
yeah.
you, you might not feel like she's attacking you personally because of her word choice. And I don't think while I think it would look good on paper, I just don't think it would resonate well because, again, Donald Trump is controllable. And I said, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing, but it's no, I
I,
don't know honestly who would be a good VP for Donald Trump. Uh, because he's gonna suck up all the
oh
oxygen
yeah,
in the room
yeah,
anyway, no matter who he
oh yeah,
picks.
oh yeah. You got to have somebody like Pence who doesn't necessarily say a lot or desire a lot of the spotlight. So it's got to be somebody. You definitely don't want a Chris Christie. Somebody like a Dick Cheney, but of course Dick Cheney would never assume that role. But yeah, you got to have somebody a little
You
more
know,
docile.
Chris,
Yeah.
I don't even know why Chris Christie is running at this point, to be honest with you. I mean,
He,
he was riding Donald
he,
Trump while he was in office, and now all of a sudden, you know, Donald Trump lost. You come after him. Now you want to say all these negative things about Donald Trump. People can see right through that. People aren't stupid. He only has a one shot of trying to win New Hampshire, and it's not even a good strategy, to be honest with you. If you're up there just to talk bad about Donald Trump, then I think you should go join the Democratic Party. I mean, he wasn't talking bad
well,
about him. I mean, he wasn't talking bad about him while he was in office. So, you know, when Trump lost the election, now all of you people think he was a dictator. He was this. He was doing that. I mean, okay, then why didn't you say while he was in office? I mean, you can definitely critique Donald Trump on his failure on COVID. You can definitely critique Donald Trump on how he raised the deficit, but you wasn't doing any of those things while he was in office. You are trying to throw out Donald Trump right now. It's not working with the Republican Party, and that's why his poll numbers are where they're at right now.
well, I agree with you there. It amazes me how a lot of the people who are in his amen corner are now demonizing him, right? And so that in particular, that is alarming. But I will also say there are some things that I would say he could have done differently. That he may have wanted to think twice about, like asking people to hang the vice president wasn't really, smart. And saying I want to be a dictator, but I'm about to pee. There's some things that he could have done differently. However, at the same time, when Nikki Haley and Chris Christie were jockeying for cabinet seats, they found it to be okay. So yeah, yeah, I agree that.
Yeah.
But
If Donald
in all
Trump,
honesty,
if he gets,
in all honesty, I want to ask this question because it's important. Uh, that there's this debate out there now that Trump has done more for the black community, and I mean, I don't see that, and I just don't see that. I mean, what do you make of it?
so I mean, we say that he has done more for the black community. I mean, he was the one who passed the First Step Act. He did that. Uh,
Hmm.
Regardless of how you think about him, he did do it. It is fair to say that Barack Obama started the process, got it to the finish line. So there's that. You can also talk about opportunity zones, how Donald Trump was asking investors to go into the black communities to invest. You can critique that for what it is, but it's still a path forward. I mean, especially for some of our black communities. And if you don't believe me, go look at the black communities right now compared to other communities that's in your local city to see
But
where it currently stands.
but
The fact that those initiatives are being taken. I think that's a very good step. Oh, go ahead.
I think, with opportunity zones, I almost feel like I see the benefits somewhat, and I also see where it opens the door to some, you know, some casualties around the black community as far as gentrification and other things like that. And so, yeah, I kind of see it, and there's some caveats there.
But the opportunity zones are for investors to invest in the black community. There are many black successful people who can invest in these communities and not leave it to whites, Asians, Middle Easterns, or any other demographic. So black people can really invest in our own community if we want to. Those opportunities were presented, and it's up to really you to take advantage of that if you are someone who wants to invest in the black community. Another thing that was on Trump, his support for HBCUs. That
Mm.
was another initiative. Now, I just named three, and I would like for people to sit back and tell me specifically what Barack Obama, what Bill Clinton, or any other Democratic president or Republican president for that matter has done specifically for the black community. While the three things that I named, you can definitely critique them and say they could have been better, but at least it was something that was done versus other politicians who give lip service to black people and nothing gets accomplished.
Well, I mean, and I would struggle with that question. I struggle with that question because, what is it that they were supposed to have done, or what is it that we're looking for? And I think, even with the Trump piece, I mean, it was a financial incentive there. Okay, great. But, how would that look, I guess? If you were to say, this particular person did this for the black community, how would that look? Because I think what what Obama did do, he raised the conversation about, race in America. I mean, that was something that I think people took for granted. I'll never forget when he had to step out and, speak on the idea with him and Pastor Jeremiah Wright and talk about his identity and how that identity is a part of America. I mean, that was a tough topic to tackle, but it was a conversation that he raised. But then you have the Trump people, some of them, who kind of push back on that. So I don't know. I think a lot of times people look at materialistic, monetary things, but there are some um, I guess materialistic things that came out of both the Clinton and the Obama. Now, one thing I don't like Clinton did. Clinton hurt black males by put more in jail. He put more black males in jail than anybody. So I will say that.
We can
Clinton was
also
not
add
good.
Biden's name to that as well. And we can also add Vice President Kamala Harris, because as Attorney General in California, she did a phenomenal
Unfortunately,
job
you're
at putting
correct.
black men in jail.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
you're correct.
And also,
I don't know.
speaking about our Vice President, from Donald Trump, when she was a senator, he did, give some money to her campaign. But unfortunately, we don't talk about things like that in the media. If he's such a racist, why did you take his money?
Well, I can agree with you on that. I think that is a interesting point there. But Kamala, I think my
But
disappointment
you
with
asked
her.
the question. You said, what does that look like when
Mhm.
when I mean doing something for the black community? I mean, that's just like how these politicians get on TV and they talk about doing something for police officers, how they talk about doing something for the LGBT, how they talk about doing something for farmers, how they talk about doing something for a lot of groups. I mean, what is wrong with talking about what can be done specifically for black people? And black people are a part of the American fabric and have contributed a lot of American fabric. I mean, like our blood, our sweat, our ideas. I mean, we are the ones who made the American empire what it is today and still do
Yeah.
now. So I don't think it's anything wrong with asking what specifically can you done. Again, you can critique Trump on the things that he has started, and I think that's fair. I'm someone that's going to actually do action versus someone that's just going to give me lip service. And because if we
Right, right.
continue to keep waiting for lip service, no, we're never going to get anywhere.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree. I think, on one of our other podcasts, The Rabble, we talk about the Black agenda. And one of our commentators said this out loud that we as a community have never really presented the Black agenda. And so what that will look like, I don't know. But at the same time, I kind of step back and say, but isn't it the responsibility of the leader of the party or the party itself to develop a pathway forward, bring people around the table? And I think if I have to give Trump credit, I will give him that credit that he did put an effort into reaching out to the Black community. Did he reach out to all of them or the best people? I don't know, but he did make the effort.
He did make the effort. I'm not going to categorize which Black people he reached out to or the ones he should have, but as you said, I think he has at least he has moved in that direction of reaching out to the Black community. When it comes to the Black agenda, I mean, me personally, I think we need to focus on owning our own businesses. I
Yes.
hope this does not come out in a racist way, but I do think we need to move other. We need to really, I'll just be blunt. We need to really remove the Asians and Arabs out of our community. I think we should own our own gas stations. I think we should own
That
our
was
own
direct to
shops.
tell.
I'm sorry. I do think I think that we do. I mean, there are some people who own businesses in the Black community, but don't even stay in the Black community. They treat the Black
Well,
customers like trash and talk to them like trash. I do think that we need to own our own communities. We need to own our own businesses. We need to make sure that we have a strong Black economy. That way we can put whatever politicians that we want to put in, and then we can really start seeing some results for the Black community and not electing people on the Republican or Democratic side who are just answering to some interest group.
no, I agree. I think, I think, there can be a better, if we're going to give money to Ukraine, why can't we give money to our Black and female owned businesses? You're exactly right. I can't think of a hair store, a liquor store, or whatever store that we own, especially here in Savannah. We used to have all of West Broad Street. That was Black Wall Street. And it was taken away. And, a lot of our businesses now are non-existent because of things like that. So how do we get back to not only one having sustainable businesses, but ones that are going to be supported by us and other cultures?
Yeah, and that's not to say they are not welcome in the Black community. I just think the Black person should own the shopping center, the entire shopping center, and even the parking lot. And you should rent from Black people and not own that specific business.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Because if we were to go
We
into the
actually
white
have
community, we're not going to own the shopping center. We're just going to be renting out.
one of the things we saw that Maynard Jackson and Andrew Young do well was develop Black millionaires, and that was off of developing the airport and I guess I would call it the New Atlanta. So all of that development, not only did Atlanta thrive, but the Black community thrive. So we've got to have that mindset as well when we have people in authority and at the table to make sure that you're, recycling or bringing our folks to these jobs and these contracts so that they can thrive. Uh-oh. Did I freeze? Did you freeze? Uh-oh.
What happened?
Oh, shit. Oh, I thought you froze. You may have froze. I may have froze. Sometimes that don't happen. But no, what I was talking about is, how Maynard
Oh, it
and Andrew
did.
Young, yeah, that piece. Uh-oh.
Okay.
You with us?
So
No,
what's the
so
next topic?
basically I'm coming up. So yeah, our next 10 minutes we got why it matters. So why does voting matter? And we can run this for another 15 minutes. But why is it important? Why does it matter? I guess on a local level, I think that's a great place to start. A lot of times we see people really invest time and energy into the national or the presidential election, when in all honesty, the most important election is your local municipal election.
Yes, I definitely agree. I think people need to be familiar with who their local judges are. They need to be familiar
Yeah,
with the sheriff. They need to be familiar with who's on the board of education. They need to be familiar with the commissioners, of course, the mayor. You need to be really informed with all those local positions. While the presidency is attractive and all, the most important decision makers are your local people. I think while it's important to vote in every presidential cycle, yes, it's very important to make sure you're voting in your local elections. And that's where Black people, unfortunately, kind of dwindle down when it's coming to those local elections. And so you never know what judge might get elected who might think differently of you. So the best thing to
right.
do is do your research on the candidate that is running and, vote for the person who you think is best. I'm 36 years old. I think we need a new generation of thinking on both sides. I think both parties. I'm kind of tired of the people that's in their 60s and 70s and 80s still running on both sides. And I don't care if you're black, white, woman, or male. I think the old school way of thinking needs to go. It's definitely a new battle that we are fighting on the domestic front and internationally. And the old school thinking, it's not working.
No, I agree. Well, I will take what you have. I would say we need to have conversations, so generational conversations, because there's some good ideas that the elders have for us to consider, and there's some good ideas that the younger generation has that should be considered. I think the problem is, and God bless her soul, when you have people like Senator Feinstein who is passionate about the work, but at some point you got to, even with Mitch McConnell, say, you know what? Maybe I need to worry more about my health and less about policy or being in the Senate. I don't think there should be an age limit, but we got to think about, are they really in the best capacity to make the best decision on policy that's going to affect our whole country?
I don't think there should be an age limit. I do think there should be term limits, though,
Oh yeah, yeah, I agree. If you had to
because
pick,
a
how would
lot
the
of
term
people
limits look?
in huh?
If you had to pick, how would the term limits look
What was
like?
that?
I guess in February. Yeah,
I mean, how would the term limit? I think that's a very good question. I never even thought to go deep into that. I can't really. I don't see you going past 2 terms. I mean, it really makes no sense for you to be in office for 20, 40 something years and you are still complaining that you're fighting for these causes. I mean, I'm sorry, if you fail once, okay. If you fail twice, okay. If you don't fail 5 times at trying the same thing, I think it's you at this point. Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and you maybe someone newer, I mean younger, can come and just give a different perspective. But just to talk about the go back to what we were focused on, local issues, and why it matters. I think again, it's important that not just black people but everybody go out and vote in their local elections. People just don't understand how important that is. Those are a lot of policy and decision makers that
Hmm.
I'm
I
sorry, a
just
comment came up that it threw
well, yeah, well, that, Lord, Ivan Cohen, he's one of our more engaged viewers, but always has good comments and good feedback. We didn't
Thank
say
you,
over the
Alvin.
hill. I don't think we want to say over the hill, Ivan, but I do agree there is a place for that conversation. I think what can be, there can be more cross cultural collaboration, more between the Democrats and Republicans and Libertarians. more between the younger and wiser generation. That this could be more cross cultural communication that's not happening right now.
Hmm. Absolutely right.
So, but sorry, we
What's the
didn't.
next topic?
Uh,
So what's the next topic?
no, you were in the middle of a thought. I didn't mean to cut you off by posting that comment, but did you finish your thought on that? I hope you didn't freeze. I used to. I guess you did.
I did finish my thought on that. Is it freezing?
No, I thought you did for a moment, but you may have not.
Okay.
And again, the dog barks. But anyway, so as we close out tonight, one of the things that I think we want to kind of raise up is this idea of what is the word I'm looking for? It was the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. I couldn't think of that all day. And why is it that important? And what's your stance on that? Do you think there's a place for a federal voting rights act in this day and age?
No, no, I don't. I
Really?
mean, no, I don't. There is nothing stopping Black people to get out and go vote. Um,
Hmm.
and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, yes, it does sound good. The headline sounds good, but it's just a way for the Democratic Party just trying to get more congressional votes. I mean, they're trying to add DC statehood to that bill. So they're not even focused actually on voting rights. Even in the state of Georgia, they said it was pro 2.0. Our voting rights laws here in Georgia is better where our president, our where Joe Biden came from, Delaware. I don't think there should be a national federal law. I mean, we're not in the 1960s or the 70s anymore. There's nothing stopping Black people from getting out to go vote. There's
Right,
absolutely
right.
nothing. We either vote every 2, 4, 6 years. I mean, it has not changed. If you are someone who don't like to stand in line, like myself, I vote early.
Hmm.
If you want a mail-in ballot, you can get that. If you change addresses, you might want to go ahead and make sure. And I'm only talking about Georgia because I don't know any other state laws. But if you are, moving, once you change your address on your ID card, it automatically asks you, are you registered to vote? So you can select you are registered to vote. And even in Georgia, if you
Right,
don't have uh, a driver's license, you can go get an identification card so you can vote. I mean, there's nothing
right.
stopping people from getting out to go vote, but the people on TV telling people that your voting rights are being taken away from you. Again, this is not during my grandmother's time or hell, my mother's time. Anybody in this day and age, you can get out and go vote if you truly want to go. If you're someone who wait till the last minute, respectfully, when you wait till the last minute, a lot of things can happen and you might miss your opportunity to vote, or you might be standing in long lines. And I want to keep in mind, I live in Buckhead. I was standing in a long line in Buckhead. So it was not just the Black community. I mean, there was a ton of places that were standing in long lines as well. So no, I don't think we need a federal law.
Well, I think there's it goes much deeper than just will I get up and be motivated to vote. I think there are voter suppression pieces that we've got to have guardrails. I look
You're
at
absolutely right.
legislation as
Removing somebody
guardrails.
from the ballot.
Say what now?
I said you're
Well,
absolutely
hold on,
right.
hold on.
Removing
What I
an
mean by that,
opponent from
what I
the
mean by
ballot.
that is this. Hold on. So let me put this up. There are systems and strategies used that will that have blocked and will block certain populations and certain communities away from the ballot box. Great example of that is you have an elderly woman, African American elderly woman who finds it difficult to get out of the house, who wants to do a absentee ballot, and to create a system where they have to do 6 or 7 things just to do an absentee ballot is considered voter suppression. But if you have a federal
Like what?
law that provides framework for states to follow, instead of you doing 6 different things, you now can require people to do 3 different things. And so I think, sometimes I do agree
What does that
that
federal law
there
looks like?
are. I do agree that there's some overreach by the federal government, but I also think that we've got to have some safeguards in place. And for example, I think honestly, when you get your driver's license, you should be automatically registered to vote. I don't know why that's not a kick that thing, but
I mean, in Georgia, we have that. We can't speak for everything else. I mean, you have the option to select if you want to or not. But so exactly what does the federal law detail on helping people secure their vote? Like, why do
well,
you feel that there is a restriction?
here's the thing. When well, voting is um a sacred right, you know.
Hmm.
And what I've seen from my experience is if you don't have guardrails at a certain level, then you have people who will try to circumvent the system of the process. And so I think having that framework for guiding elections. For example, use this for example, the hanging chads in Florida. When we had Al Gore versus Bush, if there had been a stronger guideline or a stronger framework, maybe we would not have had that piece. But for the Supreme Court to select a president, that became a real questionable process. So I think without those guidelines or those legislative pieces, we leave things to chance. And do we want to have every state kind of do their own election? And I think that'll get us in some hot water.
I I don't want the government to overreach too much. I know some people look to the federal government for a lot of things, but I think, as you said, voting is very sacred, and I
Hmm.
think trying to give that to the federal government to make a decision on that, I think is dangerous. If people are very concerned about voting, particularly in their respectable or respective states, they need to take action locally and see what needs to be done. I think asking for the federal government to step in that's an overreach.
So
I
Ivan
think a
Cohen,
lot of it is just kind of a
Ivan Cohen posted this question. I want you. I'll direct it to you. We can kind of go from there. So he said, "What is your
position
yeah position
on
on
redistricting.
redistricting?"
I think redistricting was basically it's a political move on whoever is in power. They are the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. If it is the Republican Party, they are going to draw things in favor for themselves so they can stay in power. If it's the Democratic Party, just like up in Illinois, they're going to draw lines to make them strong. So, I mean, I it's unfortunate that whoever holds the power draw favorable lines from that are not naive about what votes Republicans also drew a district to remove, and that's just because that gentleman said something to the former Speaker of the House that the Speaker at that time did not agree with. So it's all politics.
Well, and I agree. The person that has the authority and the power gets to draw the lines. But I do think it is unfair or it is not ethical when you draw certain districts out. So, for example, you disenfranchise certain communities. So, for example, uh, I don't know that this happened, but you take John Lewis's district and you split it, and then you make sure that that district now becomes two Republican districts or whatever. I think when you start doing stuff like that, you step away from representation and you step more into power. I think, and this is an issue on all parties. And I think we need to do a better job of when we go into these sessions and sit at the table that we're representing the ideas and the values of the people and not the power of the particular position. And I think we're seeing more and more about the power and less about the representation.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, when talking about redistricting before the map here in Georgia, I was one of the ones at the state capitol speaking about redistricting. So I think And it's not just they stayed in Atlanta, Georgia. They actually went through to several different cities throughout, and people, their thoughts on it. And give their opinion.
Oh, did you freeze? I think he froze. So what we will do, you all, we did not do a commercial break tonight, or today, this evening. I'll do that and we'll close out. We will be back next Sunday, and we'll be doing this every Sunday at 6 o'clock. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
I like that.